In the space of about 50 years, the most advanced civilization the world had ever seen simply stopped existing. Palaces burned. Kings vanished from the historical record mid-sentence. Trade routes that had connected 3 continents went silent. Writing itself was forgotten in some places for centuries. This wasn't one empire falling. It was almost every empire falling at the same time. Historians call it the Late Bronze Age collapse. And more than a century after archaeologists first pieced together the evidence, we still don't have one clean answer for why it happened. What we have is something scarier, a perfect storm. To understand how big this collapse was, you need to see what came before it. Around 1200 BCE, the Eastern Mediterranean was a connected, interdependent superpower network. The Egyptian New Kingdom controlled the Nile and much of the Levant. The Hittite Empire ruled Anatolia from their capital at Hattusa. The Mycenaean Greeks ran a network of fortified palace states. Assyria was rising in Mesopotamia, and smaller but crucial players, like the port city of Ugarit, acted as trading hubs where all these cultures met. This world ran on bronze, and bronze required 2 ingredients that were almost never found in the same place: copper and tin. That meant every kingdom depended on long-distance trade just to arm its soldiers and equip its farmers. Cyprus shipped copper. Tin came from as far away as Central Asia and Afghanistan. Grain, timber, and luxury goods moved constantly by sea. It was globalization, 3,000 years early. Diplomatic letters survived between these kings calling each other brother. Royal marriages linked dynasties across hundreds of miles. This was a system. And like any complex system, it was only as strong as its weakest connection. Then, within a few decades, nearly all of it came apart. The archaeological record is blunt about this. Layer after layer of ash, cities destroyed and never rebuilt. Hattusa, the Hittite capital, was abandoned. Ugarit was burned so thoroughly that clay tablets baked in the fire survive to this day, including one that may be a final, desperate letter about enemy ships approaching. Mycenaean palaces across Greece were destroyed around 1200 BCE and never functioned as palaces again. Egypt survived, barely, but its power and reach shrank dramatically. The Hittite Empire disappeared from history entirely. Within roughly 50 years, most of the great Bronze Age states were gone, crippled, or transformed beyond recognition. Trade networks collapsed. Literacy collapsed in many regions. What followed was a genuine dark age. Centuries where populations dropped, cities shrank back into villages, and monumental buildings simply stopped. So, what actually caused it?
There's a third piece of physical evidence: earthquake damage. The Eastern Mediterranean sits on active fault lines, and archaeologists have found collapsed walls, skeletons crushed under rubble, and structural damage consistent with seismic activity at multiple sites during this window. Some researchers describe an earthquake storm, a cluster of major quakes over a few decades that repeatedly battered cities already struggling with drought and famine. A kingdom that could recover from one earthquake might not recover from being hit again and again while its economy was already failing. Here's the theory that ties it all together, what historian Eric Klein calls systems collapse. The Bronze Age Mediterranean wasn't just a group of neighboring kingdoms. It was a tightly interlocked network, and interlocked networks fail differently than isolated ones do. Remember, bronze required tin and copper from distant, specific sources. If war or famine disrupted one link in that chain, say, the copper trade from Cyprus or the tin routes through Anatolia, the effects didn't stay local. They rippled through every kingdom that depended on that trade. Add drought-reducing food security, add earthquakes damaging infrastructure and morale, add displaced populations turning to raiding out of desperation, add internal rebellions. We have records suggesting some destructions were caused not by foreign invaders, but by uprisings from within, as underclasses turned on palace elites during the chaos. Stack all of that on a system with no slack left in it, and you don't get a single collapse. You get cascading failure, each falling kingdom making its trading partners more vulnerable, which makes the next kingdom fall faster. No single cause needed to be fatal on its own. Together, they were unsurvivable. The collapse wasn't the end of history. It was a reset. With bronze's tin-copper supply chains broken, communities increasingly turned to iron, which used more widely available ore and didn't require long-distance trade to produce. Historians debate how directly the collapse caused the shift, but the timing lines up. The Bronze Age gives way to the Iron Age almost exactly here. New societies emerged from the wreckage. Phoenician city-states became master traders and spread an alphabet that would eventually influence Greek and Latin writing. Smaller Greek communities, freed from centralized palace control, would slowly rebuild into something new over the following centuries, eventually giving rise to classical Greece. Sometimes collapse clears the ground for what comes next. So, was it invaders, climate, earthquakes, or economic collapse that ended the Bronze Age? The honest answer is probably all of them, hitting at once.